How you doing? I'm Kevin O'Hara for alcoholmastery.com. A lot of people, once they stop drinking, they find that they are bored. You know, they have a lot of free time in their hands, a lot of energy that they didn't have before, and you know they're not used to living this life of having all this energy and spare time, having all this spare everything, and it can spark off a lot of boredom, right? So it basically boils down to the lifestyle. It boils down to you have had an easy tool for overcoming boredom, and that's to get yourself into a state where you're not really thinking about much, you know. So if you're not thinking, you can't be bored, right? And if you do get bored, there's an easy solution: have another drink. But now that you don't drink anymore, you've got to think about these things and how to occupy your mind. You know, the first thing that I'd say to you is just to allow yourself to have the feeling of boredom. You know, it's a simple thing, but boredom is not a bad thing. You know, we look at boredom as being something that is shouldn't have a place in our lives, but it's just it's a feeling. You know, sit with it, allow it to wash over you, allow it to just sit there and think about what's going on. You know, what's going on in your head, what's going on in your body, how you feel. You know, do you feel unmotivated? You know, what's stopping you from doing something? You know, we all have a list of things that we want to do. There's areas that we want to achieve things in our lives. You know, there's things that we often do. I mean, you know, I get it myself. You know, you sit there one day and you're thinking, yeah, I feel bored. What should I do now? I don't really want to read. I don't really want to do this. I don't want to do that. Why don't you want to do that? You know, ask yourself these questions. You know, do you feel lonely? Sometimes loneliness can be boredom. You know, answer these questions, and you're much more likely to be able to overcome the boredom. Let's put it like that. You know, if you can figure out what's going on, why you're bored, figure out why you're not motivated to do certain things. You know, you need to look for other things to do. The second thing is to plan. You know, if you can plan for what you're going to do in a certain 24 hours or in a certain week, or plan for a month ahead, or whatever it is, you give yourself less chance of being bored, because you know what you're going to do, one thing after another, right? You can also plan for spontaneity. You can plan for doing things that are just off the cuff. You know, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Number 3 is to sort of avoid procrastination. I mean, a lot of the times the reason why we're bored is because we can't take that first step towards doing things. As I say, you know there needs to be some movement. You know there's things that you have to do. You know, you've got a list, you've got a plan. And it's just a question of getting started. That brings me to number 4, which is to do small things first. You know, there's a lot to be said for small habits, right? You're just doing small things and breaking large plans down into smaller chunks and tackling each of those smaller chunks as if it was a separate entity. You know, it's a separate plan that you have to achieve, a separate task. And what happens when you do this is you build momentum. And I say, you know, if you want success in life, you've got to utilize your time to the best of your abilities. You know, being bored is not something that a lot of successful people feel in their lives. And number 5 is just to practice mindfulness. And mindfulness is just being in that moment and sort of listening to what's going on. You know, listening to your breathing, listening to what your body is telling you, listening to the thoughts that are going through your mind, and doing it all in a very kind and loving and non-judgmental way. This is something that I'm trying to learn a lot more about, because I say life is short, and you only ever have the moment, and a lot of the time we cause ourselves a lot of stress and anxiety because we're all the time trying to push ourselves onto the next moment, saying that the next moment is going to be better. Next week is going to be better than today. Next month, once we get this thing or that thing, or we sort this thing out in our lives, or that things will be a lot better, and we will feel a lot happier, and whatever. We push forward our expectations into the future, and we expect things to be better. But in general, all you have is today. So it's mindfulness is to try and figure out how you can sort of be with yourself and be happy with the person that you are, right? To be happy with the emotions that you're feeling at that moment, be happy and be sort of mindful of how your body is feeling, how your mind is feeling in general, and just accepting those, and as I say, accepting them in a loving and a very non-judgmental way. And I think once you do that, once you can figure out these things about yourself, and once you can become self-aware in this way, to this level, I think that it gives you a tool for dealing with things, because often, posture, thinking, pains, so many different parts of your life are habit-based. They're just a habit, and we go through these things, and the more you go through, let's take posture for instance, the more you go through a bad posture, the worse that posture gets. If you walk around bent over, the more bent over you get, right? And a lot of the times there's no physical reason for us doing this, it's just the way that we are. A lot of the negative thinking that we do is negative because we habitually do it, it's part of our behaviour. And I think the more negative you think, the more negative you will think. It just becomes a downward spiral. So by being self-aware, by practicing mindful thinking, mindfulness in general, I think you can uncover a lot of these negatively habitual behaviours, and deal with them. I mean, you also uncover a lot of the good things about yourself as well, and you can work on those and make them better, but you're never gonna deal with these things if you don't know that they exist, if you don't know that you're doing them. And mindfulness is one way of doing that. So, at the end of the day, it's a great way of overcoming the boredom. As I say, mindful boredom is just a state of mind. It's just something that if you're bored in your head, then it's something that you can do, and only you can do something about. If you don't want to do certain things, then do other things, but do something, even if it's only being mindful. Until next time, I'm Kevin O'Hara for alcoholmastery.com. Take care of yourself. Leave a comment down below if you have anything to say, any questions, any suggestions for videos. Keep the alcohol out of your mouth and stay safe. Take care of yourself. Onwards and upwards.